Welcome to Mid-Century Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome to episode 18 of Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add vintage vibes to your modern life. We're your hosts, Gonzalo
and Jacky. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're talking about Tupperware, but first, Gonzalo, how was your week?
So my week was long, but very uninteresting because it's just work. So what I have actually is a quick correction on my part from episode 16, the electric vehicle. When we were doing our catch up, I made a comment about how I was helping some students with FFA and said that it was the Future Farmers Leaders of America. What I actually did was confuse FFA with FBLA, which is the Future Business Leaders of America. FFA is the Future Farmers of America. So
I was wondering why the L was silent, but I didn't want to say anything.
The L was silent because I can't think.
Fair enough.
There you go.
That's our first correction, though, so that was exciting.
It is. Yeah, so that was my week. Kind of, not really. That was my correction. So what about you? How was your week?
My week was good. It was a very, very long work week, so I didn't do a lot of non-work things. So after I took down all of my Christmas decorations, I mostly didn't know what to do with my Pyrex hutch because I have spring-summer Pyrex prints that I usually put out in March, so I wasn't really sure what pattern to put in there, so I just put all of my autumn harvest back in. And I did such a good job, I know you're supposed to leave that for other people to say, but I did such a good job on my Christmas display this year, and it had, all these different levels, and, I put stuff on canisters, and, it filled the space so well that when I just, put my fall Pyrex back in without any of the, Halloween knickknacks, it was just sitting there looking pathetic. I realized that what would solve that problem would be if I can complete my Cinderella bowl stack, and luckily somebody was selling the exact 2 pieces I was missing on eBay for super cheap. And so I got them, and now I have 2 little Pyrex stacks that go up super tall, but they're even in height now, and it looks all balanced and pretty.
Oh.
So that was exciting and minimal effort, and that was all I accomplished that was vintage or interesting this week. Everything else was just going to work and normal stuff.
Normal stuff, kind of like my week. But that's cool. I have no vintage Pyrex. I have 1 piece of Pyrex. No, I've got 4.
Vintage ones or modern ones?
Target purchases, so...
They sell Pyrex, brand Pyrex. The only modern Pyrex that I own are, every year they come out with a new Halloween printed bowl with the little silicone lids. They're actually super practical, and I use them for meal prep, and they're just spooky all year round. Vintage Pyrex is a lot better at going from hot to cold without cracking than the new stuff is. They changed factories at some point, and now it's not as resilient to temperature changes.
Oh, interesting. There you go. That's a quick episode idea for you.
Yes. But today, we're not talking about Pyrex, we are talking about Tupperware. Obviously, I'm much more of a Pyrex collector, so I didn't know much about this brand at all before researching for this episode, but the history of this company is a lot more interesting than I thought it would be, and it's full of spectacle and drama, and I'm very excited to get into it. But before we do you have any vintage Tupperware or any Tupperware? Official Tupperware brand?
I do have official Tupperware brand Tupperware. Now, did I purchase said official brand Tupperware, or did I go shopping at my parents' cupboard? I'll let you decide. But I do, and I have one that has been sitting on my counter because I brought it here with leftovers from my parents' house, and I'm reluctant to return it. And it's like a 9x12 rectangle, and it's only 1.5 inches tall, and it's got the classic kind of see-through, not really plastic Tupperware top with a little circle on top that says Tupperware.
Is it cake sized?
It's not tall enough for a cake. But we use it for, well, a lot of stuff. I think, what did I carry? I forgot. It's been in my counter for the past 5 weeks. But I do have something that's Tupperware that I use every day that you wouldn't think is Tupperware, but it is, and it's branded, and it's the most Tupperware orange thing I have in the house. And it is a hair comb.
Oh, cool. Again, I'm more of a Pyrex person, but I do have some vintage Tupperware pieces. I have a Jello ring mold, a deviled egg carrying container, and then I have some like canisters from the 70s that are avocado green and really cute, and I use them to like keep rice and flour and stuff in. Oh, and I have one of those cereal ones that we all had in the 90s that you like keep your cereal fresh with the little like door that you pour out of. Yeah, so I have one of those.
My parents, well, my mom is one really who uses it. She's got like 4 of those, and they all hold different kinds of flour.
Oh, cool. That's a good idea to put flour in it. My pumpkin spice Cheerios are in mine. But anyway, because that's the only cereal I buy.
My parents eat cereal too fast to transport into a Tupperware. They just keep it in the box.
Oh, yeah, that works too. Yeah, I've been working on that same family size box of pumpkin spice Cheerios since August, so but they're still fresh in my Tupperware container. So
And that is one of the great things about Tupperware, right? So why don't we learn a little bit more about Tupperware by learning about its history.
Yes. So all of it starts with a businessman named Earl Tupper. That's where the Tupper comes from. It is an actual human's name. So he was always tinkering and making inventions his whole life, and he got a job at a DuPont company plastics plant. And after he was working there for a year, he bought a bunch of used molding machines and started working on his own projects, and then he started his own plastics company called Tupper Plastics, and he was basically just making beads and plastic containers for cigarettes and soap at this point.
Wait, plastic containers for cigarettes?
Yes. I guess like a case.
Like not
so
lit
that they don't
ones.
get squished. I think they just had soft cases
Oh,
or
I was thinking
soft packs
like
back then.
ashtrays.
Oh, no. Like just to
Okay.
keep them safe or maybe not stale. Not sure. But I'm
Okay.
assuming it's just that everyone had soft packs of cigarettes and they just wanted to put them so that they don't get squished in your pocket. Was my idea, or my theory. But anyway, after World War II, DuPont Plastics gave free samples of this new polyethylene plastic to a bunch of local plastic makers, hoping that people would come up with a peacetime use for this new material. And Tupper received a block of this polyethylene, and after much trial and error, produced the first of his Tupperware bowls, the Wonder Bowl, in 1946. This was the first of any plastic containers that kept food airtight and featured a burping seal that was patented in 1949. This is actually a really big deal. Nothing like this has ever hit the market ever. So he went out to try to market the thing and started just giving it away with cigarettes, and it did eventually make it into department stores, and he had a showroom on Fifth Avenue. And the Wonder Bowl won design prizes, but basically the company wasn't doing well financially because his invention was so revolutionary that people didn't know what it was, and you really needed demonstrations to understand how much easier it would make their lives to have this product. So the person who really transformed Tupperware into the marketing empire we know it to be is a woman called Brownie Wise, who was a single mother with no formal business training, but she started selling huge quantities of Tupperware at home parties. And Earl Tupper noticed these sales figures and decided it was the perfect solution to his financial problem and marketing problem. And in 1951, he decided that they would sell Tupperware exclusively through home parties. And he also made Brownie Wise vice president and head of all sales. So they basically split into two companies at this point, sort of. Tupper continued to invent and produce Tupperware in Massachusetts, but Wise became the boss at Tupperware Home Parties, Inc., which was headquartered in Florida. So very few members of the staff at Tupperware Home Parties, Inc. had ever been to college. Wise herself had never gotten past 8th grade. So basically no one knew standard business models, and they were just inventing themselves by the seat of their pants. Staff meetings with Wise were usually brainstorming sessions that include the entire staff, including management and janitors, literally everybody.
That is actually pretty cool.
It's so cool. There's a quote from the former staff member, a former staff member, that said, "Everybody attended and everybody put in their 2 cents. There was no idea that was too absurd and nothing was impossible."
It's very forward thinking for something from the 1950s.
Yes, it's she came up with a lot of really innovative ideas to keep the staff engaged and enthusiastic, and market as, like, basically generate a lot of free publicity. Like, she came up with a lot of really great business ideas, so it's goes to show that um I don't mean, some people are just born with it because she didn't learn this in school. She just had a knack for it. So some of the things that Brownie came up with to market the company and the product. So early on, the PR team started publishing a monthly circular called Tupperware Sparks. It had news and promotions, but it also had tons of photos of saleswomen across the country posing with prizes won for high sales and for large numbers of recruits. And the public relations staff also sent these photos to local papers around the country, which were happy to publish the news that a woman from their town had just won a trip or won a car or won some other big prize. And so basically, Tupperware paid a lot less for advertising than most companies because they were creating events that attracted free publicity. Another kind of wild thing that Brownie implemented were these annual company jubilees. So it was basically all the top salespeople from across the country met at the Tupperware Home Party's headquarters in Florida for several days of classes, prizes, and promotions. Over the years, the Jubilees became wilder and more outrageous. Because it needed so many prizes to give out, Tupperware became a bulk buyer of everything from double boilers to mink coats. And other staff members quoted as saying, "We would sometimes order as many as 100,000 blenders at one time."
Wow.
Right? So Brownie...
Like,
oh, yep.
no, I was just sorry. I'm still astonished at 100,000 blenders at a time.
100,000 blenders. So, like, just think about 100,000 people in Florida that all sell Tupperware winning blenders for, like, several days of games and fun. Like, this is the kind of company environment she created.
Yeah, but I mean, also think about the size of the company, because I don't think everybody was winning the blenders. So 100,000 winners probably means, I don't know, twice as many employees.
Maybe.
With everyone able to put in their 2 cents. That's impressive.
It's very cool. So Brownie-wise, because of how cool she was, basically, she rose from general manager to company icon. Another quote from a staff member: "Brownie mesmerized her audience. You could hear a pin drop when she got up to speak." And by the mid-50s, she had made it onto the cover of Business Week, Women's Home Journal, and Cosmopolitan. And the company grew really quickly under her leadership, and by 1957, Earl Tupper was receiving lucrative offers from companies that wanted to buy Tupperware home parties. So this is when the drama comes in, because by all accounts, Tupper was extremely jealous that Brownie Wise was getting all the recognition and fame. At one point, he actually met with representatives of a high-end Manhattan public relations firm, and they told Tupper that Brownie was the most unique and marketable thing about his company. Which sucks, because she is unique and marketable, but also it all started with this product that was, like, so revolutionary they needed demonstrations. She was just so good at marketing that she was, like, better at marketing than his product was interesting at a certain point. So in January 1958, Tupper fired Wise, and several months later, he sold Tupperware home parties to Justin Dart of Rexall Drug Company for $16 million. And then shortly after that, he divorced his wife, gave up his U.S. citizenship to avoid taxes, and bought an island off the coast of Costa Rica.
That's not what I expected was going to happen to this guy. It's like, this guy's a little upset that, like someone is getting more recognition than him. So he's like, I'm going to get rid of everything.
Yep.
Bye, wife. Bye, country. I'm moving to an island.
Yep. So he was clearly a little nuts. But anyway, meanwhile, Justin Dart took over the company, and one of the first things he wanted to do was discontinue the, quote, expensive company hoopla, such as the annual jubilees, but he met with the staff one by one, and they all attempted to convince him that the jubilees and other promotions needed to stay in place because they were effective tools to motivate the sales force, bring in new recruits, and attract publicity. So he decided to ultimately leave the Tupperware home party staff to continue in their own way, and over the next 2 decades, Tupperware became one of Rexall Drug's most profitable holdings. And then by the early 60s, the company started selling Tupperware in Europe, Asia, and Latin America, Worldwide sales of Tupperware expanded exponentially, as did the company's sales force, and today Tupperware is sold in more than 100 countries.
I love that it's still being sold.
Indeed. Tupperware Jubilees are actually even still held every year on 6 continents. Though most of the Tupperware staff and sales force know very little about Brownie Wise, they still participate in many of the traditions she put into place.
That's cool.
And that is the history of the company, which I found super fascinating.
We took turns that was not expecting.
But anyway, so now that we've learned about the history, I have a little bit of details about just individual Tupperware pieces. So the first Tupperware pieces sold for $2 to $5 a piece, which is $25 to $63 in today's money.
Whoa.
Of course, one of the selling points was a lifetime warranty and the fact that you probably wouldn't have to replace pieces as often. But that is not cheap. If you are trying to identify vintage Tupperware now, every piece, well, first of all, every piece is marked with the brand name on the bottom. So if it doesn't say Tupperware, it's not Tupperware. So if it's officially Tupperware, it'll say so. And also, every Tupperware product has a 2-part number stamped onto it. The first part before the dash is the mold number. If you can find the mold number, which might be super teeny tiny on your piece, you can actually submit it into an online form or ask a Tupperware representative and get it replaced, because the lifetime warranty even covers 60-year-old Tupperware that your grandmother had. Like, they will send you a new lid that will fit if your lid breaks.
What? Yep. Really?
Yep.
Because what?
Yeah, they will honor it. Isn't that bananas? I read a lot of comments in different threads talking about it, how they will just, if you can find the model number and they have something that will fit, they will send it to you because they have a lifetime warranty.
That is insane.
And they meant it.
I will be testing this theory.
So, vintage Tupperware, like all vintage things, the pricing will fluctuate based on demand, but assuming your items are in good condition, like no cracks or discoloration at all, in general, as of July 2023, these values can give you an idea. So, full sets in difficult to find colors can sell for hundreds of dollars, but that has to be a full set. Complete line sets in just any colors will sell between $50 to $75. Salt and pepper shaker sets can go from $50 to $200 depending on their condition and how old they are, and single pieces in good condition can sell from $5 to $20. So basically they hold their value because that's kind of what they were retailing for back then, and they are selling for what they retail for now in today's money.
We still use at my parents' house a salt and pepper shaker that is Tupperware brand, and they're brown with the S and the P like embossed, I think that's the word, into them. And they have the little clear-ish plastic lid with a little topper that comes up and down on it. So like you can you open it to pour the salt and then you close it so it doesn't get like all gross inside because it's salt.
Apparently those are very big fan favorites. That's why they can go up to about 200. Apparently that's a very popular thing to collect. And that's the thing is, and I guess we'll get to that more later, but there was a very big push to lately to switch to all glass containers for food storage. And I think a lot of people got rid of their Tupperware back then, but if you can find it at Goodwill or estate sales, it should still work just the same as it always did, or you can get lids replaced or whatever. If you're trying to date your Tupperware, there are certain design differences by decade that'll help. So in the 40s and 50s, most containers from this period were either all white or pastel colored with a white lid. The Wonderlier line was especially popular. It's graduated sizes of bowls and pastel shades with white lids. Tupperware in the 60s was also mostly still pastels, but they started introducing more products then. So like your comb was probably from the 60s, and the most popular thing that they added was the plastic tumblers that they're like drinking glasses that everybody has or everyone has seen. And
we still have.
Yep. And they came in a range of colors, including pink, green, blue, yellow, white, and they also had matching coasters that you could also buy, and a really cool carousel caddy to go with them that that was the thing. And then they, in the 70s, which is like at the edge of our time period, they continue to make a lot of the same styles, but the colors changed, so the pastels were replaced by bold orange, harvest gold, avocado green, and brown.
Okay. So sorry I keep interrupting you, but this is really exciting because we have, and I remember eating in these when I was little, and now my nieces, when they're at my parents' house, eat out of these. But my mom has a set of plates with lids and little mugs, like a coffee mug with a little holder for your hands with lids that then become coasters, and glasses with a little plastic top so you can, like, if you don't finish your juice or whatever, you can put it
Mhm.
there instead of like chugging it. And they are in these colors. They are in the bold orange, the harvest gold, the avocado green, and the brown. And I don't remember which one was my color when I was little, but my sister always like, "Oh, the yellow one was mine," and I'm like, "You hate yellow. The yellow one is
Aw.
not yours." But she still claims it was, and yeah, I'm probably wrong, and she's probably right.
Yeah, this is my color palette. That's the kind of Tupperware if I was going to buy any. The few pieces that I have like two that are more pastel, but the ones I like better are Harvest Gold and Avocado Green because they match my kitchen and my lifestyle. And if you want to see more about vintage Tupperware, a cool resource that I found is a website called tupperdiva.com, which has scans of vintage Tupperware catalogs from 1956 to 1964.
Cool. So now that we you know where to find some scans of the catalogs, internet not a thing from the mid-century. So how about we talk a little bit about how Tupperware is affecting us today or inspiring us today?
Yes, so the company continued on. Obviously, it's still around. Some noteworthy events from Tupperware's own website. The most interesting things they think that they are doing themselves is they started basically expanding their cookware offerings. They have a microwave pressure cooker and spiralizers and a whole bunch of stuff to kind of like keep up with the modern times, and they started introducing that in the 90s and 2000s. Then in the past 20 years, they've been trying to be more green and work on sustainability. So they introduce a no time to waste sustainability campaign and also develops and later receives a patent for a device that grows vegetables in space, which is
Huh.
currently being tested by NASA. Nice tie in to last week's episode on
There
the
you go.
International Space Station to produce food for astronauts.
Hmm. Also, I googled what the pressure cooker looked like, and that is pretty nifty looking.
Yeah, they have a lot of like really modern stuff now. I was looking at their online catalog. So this is, and if any listeners out there want to fill us in on this, or like, please reach out on Instagram and like let me know, because I've been having a really hard time figuring out just how Tupperware is sold now. So as we know, back in the day, it was exclusively sold through home parties, and you needed to know a representative to buy Tupperware at all. But now you can order from their website with or without a Tupperware representative code, and they sell some of it at Target. So I'm not really sure what their business model looks like for salespeople. It used to be a pretty standard MLM where if you sell Tupperware, you make your money either by selling pieces and making a commission or recruiting new people to sell Tupperware and then making a small commission on top of their small commission, blah, blah, blah. But you can go on the Tupperware website right now and order from their catalog, not going through a person. So I don't actually know if people are still selling Tupperware or how their business model works. So, and if anyone currently sells Tupperware or knows anyone who sells Tupperware, please let me know because I'm so curious. But their catalog is online, so I was flipping through it, and they sell a lot of really interesting, like full out cookware, like skillets and things. Tons of microwave cooking knickknacks and tools. But as far as vintage today goes, there are some classic vintage products that they are still producing today. So the Jello mold, you can still buy these new. They also redesigned it into a fancy rectangle one called the Gel Party Set, which is basically like a sheet cake sized Jello mold, and it still has the little
Huh.
hole in the middle cut out so you can fill it with potato salad or whatever. They still sell their measuring cups, which I know a lot of people love their old Tupperware measuring
Uh,
cups that match. You have those too?
yes. Well, I don't. My mom does, but yes.
They still make them in the color scheme, and they're still evolving their colors with the time. So even though they sell these old designs, they look modern. for the most part. They still sell the Piccadilly container for pickles, which is another nifty gadget from the 50s or 60s where it's like a rectangular Tupperware container with like a basically like a potato masher upside down in there with a handle. So you put your pickles in the brine in there and you can pull the handle out and it lifts all your pickles.
Oh, without the brine.
Yeah. It looks exactly the same as it always did, except for the color has changed. That's $21 retail. They still sell cake takers, which I know a lot of people have vintage ones of those. And the Wonderlear three-piece bowl set that I mentioned as one of their early, most popular pieces is still in production. You can buy it in modern colors for $43. And they also did a reproduction of the pastel original set for the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel last year, and that you actually needed to go through a representative for. They were trying to make that super exclusive, and it was like $75 for 3 bowls.
That's a lot per bowl.
I would have been tempted if they came in the 70s colors, but since it was Mrs. Maisel, they were like the cutie little pastel ones. But luckily, I was saved from that one because those are not my colors.
Yeah, I'm a bigger fan of the yellow and those.
Mm-hmm. Same. The brown I can live without. That's like the one color that's in the 70s that I'm just like not into. But
I love
carbon
it.
gold, avocado green, and orange are my faves.
I love the yellow and brown because my house is yellow and brown.
Oh.
The brown is very like 70s brown. The yellow is a little worn. It looks more like cream now. But I also like it because my mom and all her stuff that she's got in the kitchen, she's got this really nice set of china that is the most 70s yellow with brown edges, and she's got this really perfect teapot that goes with it, and like the mugs. She's got the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, I love all that stuff. But anyway, that's Tupperware from the early times to today.
Sweet.
And now that we're all caught up to the present, it's time for our etiquette segment. So, Gonzalo, what do we have today?
So today's etiquette segment once again is coming to you from Amy Vanderbilt's Complete Etiquette book from 1957. Actually, it's coming from chapter 19, titled The Well-Groomed Man, which shows readers exactly what a well-groomed man should look like and how they should act.
Oh boy.
So, according to Amy Vanderbilt, the well-groomed man, quote, looks clean, his clothes fit him comfortably, his shoes are well shined, and their heels are in good order. His tie is neatly tied so that it covers the collar joining and the short end lies well under the long end, end quote. Windsor knot should be small and tidy, not theatrically large. And if you wear a bow tie, it should be solidly foursquare, not droopy. So I know I touched a little bit on the clothes there with the tie, but again, I wanted to stay with just looks. Well-groomed man should also never be without a clean handkerchief, and his nails should be clean and short with a cuticle pushed back. If manicured, buffed but never colored, or even with colorless polish.
Huh.
Regarding hair, the barber should clip the nose and ears, never tweeze, and it's said for safety's sake in the book. I was unaware that was a safety issue with that. Anyway, hair should never get so shaggy that a new haircut is too apparent. It should be trimmed as often as necessary to keep it from colliding with the collars or the ears. Scissor trimmed, not clipped, to avoid a, quote, ugly ridge across the back of his head, end quote. If the man is bald, he should realize that letting the side or back hair grow long enough to drape stickily over the bald spot, quote, deceives no one and usually produces a peculiar parting in the hair, end quote, which I found hilarious because it's basically saying no comb overs.
Nope. Yep. And that it's fooling nobody. She is not wrong.
Yes. I love that it's like specific. Like, just don't do it. Men should be clean shaven. For the man with the blue jowl, there seems to be no other course than a twice daily shave. And a man who gives himself a shaving holiday when at home is, quote, in the same class as the wife who doesn't put on her makeup or take her hair out of curlers until the afternoon, end quote. And I put a comment as in like the audacity of that.
That's good.
I sometimes go days without shaving.
Yeah, I know, and a lot of people go days without putting their makeup on. But yeah, no, she's right in saying that they're the same They're both lazy.
Yeah, they're both lazy. I'm lazy.
Yep.
Regarding the heavy sweater, and I mean the person who sweats a lot, if perspiration stains suits under the arm, the recourse is to commercially available deodorants only, meaning you should put on deodorant. Headbands should be changed as often as necessary to not show perspiration.
So that is interesting. I didn't know that hats, that those were replaceable.
I didn't either.
But that's clever,
But
because then you don't have to, like, send your hat to the dry cleaners. You
yeah,
just replace the hat band.
yeah. A daily or twice daily shower should be routine for every man, but, quote, obligatory for the heavy perspirer. I've been known to shower 3+ times a day, so I'm totally cool with this. But also, under this section, it says the cologne does not cover the need for daily showers, which is true.
Indeed. Yes.
And speaking of cologne, there's a lot of information on what cologne used to be. Like no American he-man, as that was a quote, would have considered to use cologne. But in the 1950s, because of all the hair tonics, all the lotions, etc., it's a scent was becoming more accepted on the man. And it said that it should be used restrainedly. Simple colognes and toilet waters, quote, of the spicy variety, end quote, are attractive and increase impression of careful grooming.
I love the way she writes. I just think the way she phrases things is so funny. Toilet waters of the spicy variety.
I know.
So this is tricky because basically she's listing all these tips. If you want to be perceived as well-groomed, you should do all of these things. And she is not wrong. All of these things will make you appear well-groomed. I guess the idea is, like, should men still do this? Or only do this when they want to appear well-groomed? Like, that's what I'm sticking on.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I feel like everyone should do what they want to do as far as how they look.
Sure.
But I like being well groomed, even though sometimes I go days without shaving my neck, and apparently that makes me lazy. But I mean, I also like, I don't know. I've always worked in an office or now at a school, and you have to look presentable. So
I like some of these tips are interesting. Like, hair should never get so shaggy that a new haircut is too apparent. Like, if you are regularly maintaining your haircut, people shouldn't notice when you got a haircut. Like, you should just look good all the time. Like, basically, this is just regular beauty maintenance, whatever the man version of beauty is.
you can definitely notice when I get a haircut. I guess I'm not following these rules. So maybe that's my answer. I think my answer is these are all cool in theory, but maybe not so in practice.
Yeah, maybe not all at once, but I think every one of these tips is a very useful tip. The idea of doing them all at once, for most people, it's probably excessive. But I think that this is a very good reference point for, like, if you get a new fancy job at an office and you need to look super nice every day, or if you have an event coming up and you want to appear well-groomed and fancy at this event, you can follow some of these tips. So maybe, I don't know. I approve
I think so.
with caveats.
Okay, and I second that approval with caveats. And I think that means it's the first time we approve with an asterisk. So,
yeah, maybe.
But you heard it first here, guys, listeners. So anyway, it looks like we've landed the plane with that revelation. So thank you guys all for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. This is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions. You can send us a DM anytime, and especially any Tupperware consultants, please send us a DM anytime.
Yes, send us a DM for that, and let us know what you guys have in your Tupperware collection, because now we're interested.
Mm-hmm.
And tag us in your posts.
Yes, tag us in your posts.
Yes. So thanks, guys, for listening. We'll talk again to you guys next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.